and good morning, everyone in the real world. What a beautiful Monday it is. The Cubbies are back. All is right in the world. The National League is in sight. Beautiful weekend. We had a little bit of rain finally down here in Florida. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. The squirrels are running. The dogs are doing what the dogs do, just being in there. And we're in the dog days of summer. And it just I just couldn't be more elated today. Had a nice little day on the market. The vibes are high over here at Camp Thomas. Welcome to another show. It is a Monday. We're here to break down the weekend for you and give you a little preview into what the next week is going to have. My good friend Jeffrey over here, who is seemingly not wearing any Braves gear today, but is here present. And, you know, there's just nothing like having him on the show. Jeffrey, how are you today and how is your weekend?
I will admit, as somebody who's been a Braves fan for my entire life, I don't have a lot of Braves stuff in terms of gear. I don't know why that is either. I mean,
you have a hat.
I have a hat, but I don't have any jerseys. I got 2 shirts, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of
2 shirts.
Full bracelets. Make that clap. Standing ovation. Yeah, anyway, congratulations on your series win. You know, it obviously we take game 1 pretty handily, and you were very upset about it.
I was not.
You were literally texting our group. You're like, "This is so stupid. I can't believe the Cubs we come out and we put up 16 runs and now we can't get a hit off of Max Fried and blah blah blah." That was literally what you were sending our group on Friday. You want me to pull it back up and read it?
But that's a statement, though. That is an absolute correct statement. They put up the most runs in history over a 2-game span, and then they come out and get blanked, almost no hit. That's all I said. I wasn't completely upset. Obviously, I didn't expect them to win, as we both conversed about. I have Kyle Hendricks on our baseball fantasy team, and I chose to not start him versus the Atlanta Braves because I knew what was coming. So therefore, no, I wasn't. And if we just want to go straight into the Braves Cubs series here, we were more than can.
You're the one who kind of dove into it, but go ahead, sure.
Well, I was just tipping it off. You know, I was just tipping it off.
Congratulations.
Just starting it off. You know, it was a good win. And I'll tell you the reasons why that this was a good win. And, you know, I talked to my father about this, and I was a little upset about the way that the matchups worked, where you guys had your 1, 2s, and 3s, your beginning start of the rotation, and we're on the dumpster end of it. You know, obviously we're starting Kyle Hendricks. He is probably our 5th in the rotation, 4th in the rotation. Obviously, towards the end, he's a contact pitcher, and you can't have a contact pitcher going against the hottest swinging team in baseball. It's not going to be good, and it wasn't good. So then this game 2, we had no starter because Marcus Stroman was out. So therefore, we started with Assad, and the bullpen did a great job on Saturday. Just shout out to them, keeping them under wraps a little bit. And then Justin Steele held them on Sunday as well. So I was just more, you know, when you go up against the best team in baseball, which, let's be honest, the Atlanta Braves are the best team in baseball right now. Completely all around. Their pitching, their offense is absolutely just on fire. For Cubbies to be, you know, have questions that we had at the trade deadline. Are we going to be buyers? Are we going to be sellers? We did come off that huge hot streak against the Reds, taking 2 out of 3 to them to get closer to the division. And going into the Atlanta series, this was a very crucial series for the Cubs. Not so much the Braves, and I know you're not worried about it, nor should you be. But for the Cubs, this was an absolutely immense series for them to be able to come get 2 out of 3 at home versus them and go up against some of the top pitching that the Braves had and be able to continue to outslug them. And that's always been the Cubs' Achilles heel, going all the way back to 2016, you know, when they did the World Series, and even the few years behind that when the Cubs seemed to struggle with the same team that won the World Series. They always shrunk when it came to elite pitching. And that's, I think, where my frustration came out more on that game 1, is we finally faced elite pitching, and they absolutely shit the bed. So that's where my struggles was coming out. And then, you know, to watch them come back Saturday, Sunday, put up runs, and compete with them. Obviously, the Braves are going to put up runs. The Cubs continue to put it up. I was very, very happy with the way that the series turned out. Even if they would have lost Sunday or Saturday and only taken 1 out of them, I still would have felt really good coming out of that they were able to compete with the number 1 team.
Yeah, I told you, maybe an opportunity missed for us because I feel like this would have been a good time for us to head up to Chicago for a game or two and for me to experience Wrigley, which I've never done before. But, you know, having a new baby, not even a month old and stuff like that, it's a little bit tougher to kind of justify breaking away right now as we sit. However, I will say congratulations to you guys. Jeremy was razzing me a little bit on Friday after the game, and I don't want to give him too hard of a time because he's not going to be able to defend himself on this. But he's like, "Oh, bet me on Saturday's game. Bet me." I'm like, "What? Why do I care? I don't care. Like, if you guys win, congratulations, and you guys won the series, congratulations." Now that being said, we're still 10 games up in the division. We're still 7 games up for overall best record. We have been slumping a little bit lately, and slumping in terms of not winning every series that we play. We haven't been doing as great, but listen, I think we'll be fine once Kyle Wright comes back. We just got Max Fried back. He had been on the injured list for quite a long time. Finally getting him back to help solidify the rotation. Obviously, Elder didn't throw great. Morton's going to be more of a workhorse for us here in the playoffs, where he usually shines. He's not the best season-long pitcher, but playoff-wise, he usually always comes out and performs. So, there's a lot of talk about should the Braves make moves at the deadline to shore up their pitching. They didn't. They got knocked around a little bit this weekend. We'll see. Hopefully, getting Fried and Kyle Wright back will to go along with Strider, and maybe you see a Soroka return or something like that to go along with Charlie Morton, and a guy like Bryce Elder will be able to shore it up. But didn't happen. Congratulations to you guys. How was the rest of your weekend? Everything good?
Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, everything was hunky dory. Life goes on. I can't remember. I don't even know what I did. I feel like
dinner anywhere or.
No, we've been kind of just chilling at the house, I take that back. So Saturday we had the big card show over at the New York Beer Project.
Yeah. Johnny Damon, right?
Johnny Damon. Yeah, we got a couple autographs for Johnny Damon. I got one for my Red Sox guy, Joe. If you're watching, that ball will go out tomorrow. So we got a couple signed autographs to him. But we had a great day at the venue. We actually, I think, had the most sales of anybody there, which was really good. And
nice.
Unfortunately, we did sell your Jameis Winston 2013 National Championship signed helmet.
Yeah, that's good.
That was probably going to be it was probably going to go to be a Christmas present at some point for you, but unfortunately, somebody did scoop that up. But yeah, we had a great time. It was our first show. And it was really good, man. And it got us a little bit more excited about it. We're going to try to get in a little bit more of the card aspect of it. Watching these guys come in for the card shows. I mean, these guys are just coming in 5 minutes. They're set up. And then the 5 minutes, they're gone. Of course, we were one of the first people there to set up. We had a little bit more of intense of a display. We got to figure out how we're going to display our helmets and stuff like that as we had kids touching the signatures. And when you're touching a $1,500 Trevor Lawrence limited edition helmet and a Tom Brady limited edition helmet, and you're touching the signatures to see if it's real or how it feels, I could get a little snappy.
You don't put them in the glass boxes?
No, because no, because I don't have them here at the house. The only reason I have them is just to display like that. Most people don't touch helmets. And most of the shows and stuff, it's just when you have little kids and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we had a little bit of a formula to pull them back a little bit. Had some wheeling and dealing. I don't know if you guys watch on TikTok or some of the Facebook reels. The guys up in New York that do the flipping of the Rolexes, the Mazzals, and the coin flips and stuff like that.
Bro, Moses the jeweler, bro. Yeah. Come on, man.
So
love that guy.
So we had a kid come in. I had a $50 Trevor Lawrence rookie card. And he's like, he's doing it. He's like, this is a little kid, right? He's probably like, I don't know, 13, 14. He's like, can you do 30 on it? I'm like, no. I go, I can do 40. And he goes, how about 35? I go, no. I go, 40, and it. He goes, would you do a coin flip for it? 35, 40? I go, absolutely, dude.
35, 40 for the content, for the love, absolutely.
Yeah, so he flips the quarter. It hits the Brady helmet and puts a mark on it. I won, but I go, I think you just did more damage on that helmet than this card. Luckily, it just wiped right off. But good. That'll be another thing for the future. There will be no coin flips next to the helmets. But yeah, I had a lot of interested parties in the Dwayne Wade limited edition jersey that we had over there. Of course, Tom Brady always does. We actually moved 4 cards. I moved a Kyle Trask rookie card that I wasn't really wanting to sell, but I moved it. We had a lot of inquiries on our Justin Fields limited edition signed rookie card, but I priced that so high, and I mean, the card's going for like $1,000, right? This card is, and it's graded.
What'd you price it at?
$1,500. And so when somebody comes up and like, "What's this?" I go, "Honestly, bro, I don't want to get rid of it, but it's $1,500 if you want it." And of course, I had a couple people almost, like, I'm like, I go, no, because I had like I don't know, 8 more Justin Fields rookie cards in there. And I'm just like, if this, in my opinion, is Justin Fields' make it or break it year, right? This is the year where he's got the weapons. There's no more excuses. Third year, whatever, in the league. It's either this year you're going to prove that you can. I'm not saying he has to have an MVP season, but this is the season that he has to prove that he can be the guy. And if he does, and he has a monster season, the value of his stuff is just going to double overnight. So that's kind of what I'm holding on to. But yeah, we had a great time out there. Had a few beers. And, honestly, we came home, and me and my wife looked at each other. Now, the place that we were at, New York Beer Project, for those is literally a minute down the road here.
Yeah, you've been before, right?
Yeah. And
I love it.
I had 4 beers. I think my wife had 3. And like later on in the afternoon, we're like, we're shit-faced. Absolutely shit-faced. And we had a hangover like at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, but it was a great time. Shout out to anybody that's on here that was listening. I know a lot of you guys picked up cards. We did a lot of promotions for the show out there as well. So if anybody's listening today, I appreciate you. And don't forget to like the video. And we'll see you at the next one. So the next one is in Lake Nona. I guess it's like over 250 vendors. We can't even get a table. We're actually going to be outside the venue, but there's a waiting list. But
when is it?
It's in October.
Oh, okay. Thank God it's not like later this month or like in September where you're just brutally outside.
I wouldn't do that just because a lot of the stuff that I bring, I don't want to leave outside in those temperatures anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to do that one. Then we got another one in November, but we're really going to start looking for these shows. And just start taking it. We got in a little bit more of a Bianca's sister is really big with the breaks. SoCal Sports Cards. If anybody follow her on Instagram, does breaks. We jump back in some more of her breaks, looking to snag those
breaks.
Yeah, so she gets a case of the cards, and then she breaks it down by team. You buy the team, and then whatever cards from that team you get. So that's how, you get a lot of these rookie cards, stuff like this, because the odds of you going out and buying, and you can, like a box of some of these is like $367. You could go buy a box and just see what you get, right? So she's doing cases, and that would be like $2,500. And then, and then you break it out by team. So like I picked the Cardinals because they have a lot of rookies and stuff like on the Cardinals that they're valuable. Plus that was the only one that was left when I jumped in there. But that was 200.
They're terrible.
It doesn't matter. Those rookie cards that the Norman kid.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so obviously the Reds are really big right now. So we jumped in and got some NFL ones coming up. I jumped in on the Texans, the Panthers. Those quarterbacks that the number 1 quarterbacks. Before when I built up my card collection, I just picked the teams that I wanted. So I have a stack of Cubs, that are huge. I have a stack of Bears that are huge, and if you're going to be in there, the business, you got to kind of spread it out to what the people actually want. So. But yeah, a lot of people. Oh, we did see a lot of people that came back from the national show, which is the biggest sports in Chicago, and that got us kind of geeked. There was a lot of people there that said, "Hey, with the stuff that you have, you need to be up there." And so we were already on the waiting list for that. It was like a 200 vendor waiting list to get on there.
Wow!
But based on what we saw, dude, I got a lot of giddiness as far as getting up to that Chicago show. Plus, if I want to sell any of my actual Chicago stuff, I got 4 World Series jerseys, the Dickas. I think all that stuff would sell pretty good. But yeah, we had a great time, man. Great time. Really looking forward to the next one. There's some interesting people that come to these places.
I heard we got some other people that we know too who might be working over there at New York Beer Project as well now. So shout out to
yeah, Frankie, dude.
Shout out to Ronnie from Jersey Shore.
Jesus, dude. I came downstairs and he's at the bar and I'm like, no fucking way. No way, dude. I thought I'd never see that guy again. And he's like,
pops into kitties every once in a while.
He's like, yeah. He goes, I came in here for dinner and fell in love with the place, so I came to apply. Cool. I was like, all right, bro.
It's a dope spot. I mean, like it's a dope spot. It's a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna say.
It is. It's a nice spot. It's just like anything else, This is their first branch that's outside of New York. There's a lot of to me that's a ballsy venture, bro. To take an operation of that scale and you have 2 in New York and your next one comes to Winter Garden, Florida, in the middle of 4,000 houses. Now, it's one thing you put this thing on iDrive, right? Well, obviously your rent's gonna, obviously be way more. So I'm sure that, but the rent here can't be cheap. But the fact that you're
a lot of competition down there too.
Yeah, but I always saw that. I never saw that as competition, man. When I was in the restaurant industry, the more restaurants around me, the better. And the reason for that being is it brings more people to the area. And as long as you're executing at a high level, people are going to continue to come back to you. As long as you got
busy
good
restaurant feeds on itself,
Exactly. So when back in the Hooter days, man, when everything was around me, I was like, bring it on. Everybody'd freak out. Oh, this is coming. I go, why? Why are you scared? Why are you scared? Do we not execute better? Do we have, faster ticket times, better service, obviously better scenery? Like, what are you scared about, bro? Like, just stay.
I will tell you a funny story real quick. And as somebody who knows computers, so you were just having some technical difficulties before we came on. We've been looking to take my son's PC, which I'm running off right now, and just make sure that, it's up to as good as it can be, graphics card wise, and, it's running at a high level and so on and so forth. So we decided to roll into Best Buy. I met this guy at Best Buy, Hunter. He's like, just bring it in. We'll kind of test it out. We'll see what's going on. Blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, cool. So we bring the tower in. Bring it into Best Buy yesterday, and they go in there and they look at the PC, and the guy's like, "You already got a graphics card in here." I'm like, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "When you plug your when you plug in your
monitor,
thing,
that's the graphic card."
He goes, "No, but where are you plugging it into?" I go, "Oh, I plug it into the top USB port right there." He goes, "Nah." He goes, there's two other USB ports that are down here. That's where you're gonna plug into your graphics card right there.
They're not even. They're HDMI ports.
Yeah,
or RGB or whatever.
So they're those are basically going into like the main hardware part of the computer, which is the
graphics card.
No. But that part is like the way he described it is like that part right now has like the amount of like gigs that it has is like very minimal.
Your hard drive.
So my hard drive is running on like let's say 0.3, right? Whereas opposed to the graphics card that's actually been installed in the computer the entire time is running off of 4.
So you have everything running through your graphics card. Yeah.
I had nothing running through it. So he goes, just plug your USB into this port right here, and you're going to see a night and day difference on everything that happens with your computer. I'm like, oh.
A good thing for
Thank you so much.
A good thing for you, which I would highly recommend, is, I went to that iBreak because it seems like every time I'm due for an upgrade, my wife breaks her phone. And then obviously I ran over mine as well, which cost me a lot of money in crypto. Thank you. Trust Wallet. You're the best. But I signed up for it's called the Asurion Home Plan #app. It's $24 a month. It covers everything in your house. So like that computer, you can bring it in for a fine tune up. It's free. You crack your phone screen, bring it in. It's free. If you have an Apple Watch, which is not covered by your insurance or anything like that, they fix those as well. Your big screen goes down, they fix it. Anything that you can take in there, and they actually have in-home repair as well. I think it covers all of your appliances as well. It might be something to look at, because somebody like me, I'm not very, not too inclined.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that we were transporting the tower to and fro. So it was sitting in the back seat. And as soon as we opened up the gate from the back seat, the tower decided to just fall right out. And
you didn't put it in the back seat with the seatbelt on?
I put it back when my father-in-law was like, "I got this. Don't worry about it."
Marcus, come on!
That's not the best place for it. He goes, "It's fine. It's fine." I go, "Okay." So he opened up the thing and whoop, right out.
Bro, every time
it just cracked the plate off the front. We just got to glue it back.
Every time I transport that thing, I put it in there. Usually, obviously, it's in the front seat, but I put the seatbelt on. It's like my little child sitting in there. But yeah. So
crazy how big the rigs they have now are that they sell. They're like humongous on some of them. Where this one we have is very, very small. So
very slender, very sleek.
Very sleek.
So we did have some drama, this weekend. And Ian, if you're listening, you might want to mute because, we are going to talk about soccer. And you know, the most thing that we have to talk about these United States World Cup women's, you know, getting bounced for the round of 16 for the first time in quite some time. I don't know. I don't think it was ever, but first time in quite some time. And there's just a lot of stir going around. And you sent me the compilation that, you know, Megan Rapapine, or I don't know if I'm spelling her name right or saying it right. Sorry.
Rapinoe.
Rapinoe, you know,
Rapinoe.
And her terrible gameplay. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, obviously they were all very bad shots from what I saw, but I've never watched her to see what a good shot is from her. So I'll let you talk on that. But the only thing I'm going to say is what they've done is, like we talked about before, where we talked about World Women Cup and we talked about rooting for Team USA. They've divided the United States. And that's what's sad, is we're on the biggest stage and our country is not together, rooting behind the people that represent our country for whatever reason. And then they go out there, and for the first couple rounds in qualifying, whatever the hell that's called, the first round, they looked very lackluster. They seemed arrogant, overconfident. We talked about how the girls said, yeah, we scored 3, but we could have scored many more. Well, you didn't. And then I think that translated over. You said the same thing, that they were going to lose to Sweden and be gone. So I guess it wasn't too big of a shocker for anyone. But, you know, some of the comments after, you know, I don't know. I guess it's just very disappointing. So, yeah, I'll let you talk a little bit about that, and then we can kind of touch on, you know, where do we go moving forward after this?
Yeah, and I wanted to bring Jeremy in as well, too, because he is one of our resident soccer people who follows very closely as well and is very opinionated when it comes to the game, not only U.S. women-wise, but also MLS as well, too. So
worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide, if you want to unmute. But so a few thoughts that I had on it. It was very interesting to me, the way that the game shaped up and played out. Now, if you remember back to the last qualifying match they had, literally the player of the match was the post. Portugal had a goal that they could have made. The post saves it. They end up advancing for the U.S. women. But the writing was kind of on the wall. It just seemed they seemed older. You know, we talked about the fact that and Jeremy, this is my opinion, but the U.S. women were always so much more dominant in terms of athletically and just more gifted on the field. They would run past people. They were more physical. They'd bump you off. They were able to kind of create space based off of how physical and intimidating they were. And now the game has kind of changed. They don't blow past people anymore. They're not fast. They've never been the best.
They're older.
Sound. Yeah, well, they've never been the best technically sound team in the world, but I think it kind of magnifies when you are playing competition that is equal to your skill level as well. I thought it was a terrible showing. Obviously, afterwards, they do, you know, Rapinoe misses the penalty kick, you know, and people were giving her a hard time for smiling. I don't think there was joy that she had because she was smiling after she missed the penalty kick.
No, I don't either.
I think
that's one of those things where you miss a 3-foot putt by 6 foot. You're like, how the hell did I just do that?
Yeah, and you're kind of trying to deflect. Yeah, that's an interesting comment you made. But anyway, Chad, stop laughing at me right now. I know you're laughing at me right now.
He's not watching.
He probably is. Anyway, so let me get back on the track here. Just the entire situation, and her saying afterwards, the best thing that she did for women's soccer was equal pay, which is still not really equal. Yes, they get a larger chunk of what the men get as well, too, but it's not like there's complete equality when it comes to this, and it's not that there should be anyway.
Actually, the guy that broke that down was very interesting. When it comes down to percentages and everything, actually, the women have always gotten paid more than the men when it comes to the percentage of total revenue.
More now. They get more of a small piece of pie now.
Right, and the men still get less of a percentage than the women.
Jeremy, what were your thoughts on the U.S. women, their tournament, their exit, and the overall attitude of the team afterwards?
Jeff, I think you brought a good point in. In 2015, 2019, when they won their World Cup, the U.S. team was head and shoulders above everyone else in the world. And in the last 4 years, the world has caught up. It's very similar to when the NBA players played in the Olympics. You know, we had to put our NBA guys back in because the rest of the world caught up, and the USA wasn't the best wasn't the best in the world anymore. And I think that's what's happened in this sport is more countries are investing into their soccer teams. I mean, you think right now Jamaica is in the round of 16. That was not seen. They beat Germany. Germany was one of the top teams along with the United States. I mean, Sweden has been building this team up for the last 8 years to knock off the U.S., and then they've done it in a friendly, and now they've done it in the round of 16. And I think the showing that they put forth the Sunday morning at 5 a.m., which I did wake up to watch part of the game and then rewatched it last night, the U.S. had 21 shots to Sweden's 4. So it wasn't for lack of trying. They did not get any quality touches. They didn't get any quality shots. They just couldn't find the back of the net. And then when it came down to it and the penalty kicks, the two or three top players in Megan Rapinoe, who, I mean, listen, she's been playing since 2006 for the United States national team. You know, that's a 17-year career. You're gonna start to go down at the end. And she missed, and in her words, it was a sick joke. That's what she said when she was laughing. She goes, "Are you effing kidding me? I missed a penalty kick." She goes, "I don't remember the last time I missed one," and it's been a long time. And I think that the world has caught up to us, and the younger players, the Trinity Rodmans, the Sophia Smiths, they're going to have to come back. And I mean, the average age of the players that are going to be left on this squad in 2027 for the next World Cup is 24 and a half years old.
That was going to be a question that I was going to ask. I'd be very curious to see the average age of the women's team this year, what their average age is versus the field. I would have to think that the United States women's team has to be one of the oldest teams on the field.
Absolutely. And we lost Becky Sauerbrunn before the tournament. She wasn't able to play. Muse, another player that wasn't able to play too. Two players that have been there. Samantha Muse has been. Sam Muse has been one of our top players in the midfield, and she's the one that usually gets the ball to Alex Morgan, gets the ball to Sophia Smith, gets the ball to Trinity Rodman, and she wasn't even able to play. So Julie Ertz had to step up and play center back, which she hadn't played in 6 years. So I mean, they're players that are playing out of position. They're not playing the team, and I'm not making excuses because they still, hands down, should be the best team in the world. They just weren't able to put it together.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Go ahead, Tyson. Your thoughts?
I just think that, I have to have this. I don't know. The only thing that bothers me is just the sentiment of, throughout Twitterverse. And, obviously we know Twitter is a very toxic place, or X, whatever it is now.
Toxic. That was a super toxic day, though. Like, yesterday was
it's just the fact of the feeling is they didn't care. There's been soccer professionals,
that's absolutely incorrect.
Commentators, former coaches saying that everything that they saw from the beginning showed that they just didn't care, that they thought that they were better than everyone else and that they were just going to cruise through. And I think that that's what's kind of dividing everybody is like, did you actually even care about this, or did you care? And like I said at the very first game, when the camera people are just literally staring the camera at them, right, and then saying, why doesn't the United States soccer team have as much passion for their national anthem as the rest of them? That started it right then and there. And it's just, it goes back to the media driving a wedge. So then now people are like, they don't care about the country. So guess what? I'm glad you lost. It's very toxic. It's probably one of the most toxic world team events that I've ever seen when it comes to the United States and Americans getting behind their teams. I think it's almost divided, that half the people wanted them to lose. I really do. And I think that that's just sad.
Yeah, and I think there's like an underlying thing there where it's like we're gonna root for you because you're representing the USA, and we're gonna root for the USA in anything that the USA does. But I think we are rooting for the establishment and not for the people, if that makes sense. Like,
well, let's just be honest. Everybody was rooting against Megan Rapinoe or whatever her name is. That if you were rooting against the team, you were rooting because of her. That's just straight up. There's no other reason why you would root against them other than her.
Listen, it's not like she's the only one who has these views in this stance that are.
She's just the most outspoken.
She just has decided to be the face of it.
Correct.
And say, listen, I'm married to Sue Bird. I'm married to one of the greatest basketball players in the history of women's basketball.
Not women's basketball. She said all basketball. Yes. She took the women's out of that, by the way. One of the best basketball players ever.
So then you are very familiar with who she is.
Oh, I see the Twitter quotes, baby. I see it. I see the Twitter storm. I see the fire.
You are familiar with.
I know her. Oh, absolutely. I know who she is. She's got a lot of stances that I don't agree with. But again, I don't care what our differences are. When you step on that field, I got your back. But a lot of people don't see it that way, man. The whole kneeling of the anthem, the whole, there was other people on there said, this country is so effed up. There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of comments, and just like your shirt, people get fired up, man, over things, and they don't let it go. And I think that's where you're at with women's soccer. And I think once Megan leaves, which I think this is her last year, correct? Is she retiring, Jeremy?
Yeah, she's done.
I think you'll see a little bit more patriotism come back, hopefully. In the fact, I don't know. I think it's scarred. It's scarring, man. I don't know. It's scarred.
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't wear this with a little bit of purpose to it, and a little bit of thought behind wearing the Bud Light hoodie today.
You're just trying to defect from the Braves series.
Something like that. The other thing I wanted to talk about with soccer, and Jeremy, if you can unmute here again, is there's a huge tournament going on right now in terms of MLS. And obviously, unless you've been living under a hole, this is going to be very brief, Tyson, please. We understand that.
Sorry.
Obviously Lionel Messi comes over to play for Miami. Obviously, those kids are fire, by the way. They go into this tournament. It's a tournament of it's basically, let me get this straight, correct? It's Mexico and MLS, correct? Is that right, Jeremy?
Also Canadian teams, yeah.
And Canadian teams. I didn't know.
They use the MLS teams like Toronto and to play. That's
okay. Yeah. But I meant like it's like an MLS versus Mexican professional league, correct?
The Leagues Cup, yes.
The Leagues Cup, correct. So they're in this. Orlando City played Miami on Wednesday. Very controversial. I don't know if you want to break down a few of the things that happened on Wednesday. We obviously, and it's crazy too, because you have all of us. We get off work, we rush. The game gets delayed. Doesn't start till 9:45. We rush to the bar, and there's one person who has it bought on Apple TV Plus that has it streaming. That we're all huddled around watching this go on. So
I'm sorry. Just real quick, I just want to make sure I clear. You guys rushed to the bar to see a 90-minute soccer game that there's probably a goal in there. You guys rushed there.
The final was 3-1. It should have been 3-2. Well, it could have been any. There's a lot of things that went into it. Jeremy, go ahead and tell us your thoughts about the game and the way that it went.
Well, I think the one thing I think of now is the Messi rules have come into MLS. Anyone, if you were able to watch it on Apple Plus, which the streaming subscriptions have gone up over 300% because of him, and luckily you all are giving Lionel Messi a bunch of money. They're paying him so that he shows up and scores goals, which he's scored 7 in 4 games. Yeah, you know what? He's a better player than what MLS has. But they also are catering, pandering, and doing everything in their power to keep him in the match. Because in the first half of the game against Orlando City, he picks up a yellow card. About 5 minutes later, guy running towards the ball. Messi hip checks him, extends his arm. The referee's staring right at it. I have the video. He's staring right at it. And as soon as it happens, his head goes over here and look away, which would have been his second yellow card, and it would have been a soft red, and they would have not had him. And then he scores 2 goals to win their match. It's unbelievable. Like, you can't. Even last night in Dallas, there was 2 plays where Messi got a call, or he runs up to the referee after one of his teammates gets fouled, and he shows his hand for the card, and lo and behold, a card comes out. So Messi rules are here, and that's all I want to say about that.
Yep, no, I agree with you. It is good to see, and it is refreshing to see some of these pundits, Alexi Lalas, and some other types who were very critical of the U.S. women's national team, who have caught a lot of flack from certain places. Dan Le Batard's show, all those people on there absolutely hate Alexi Lalas because he made a Twitter comment about Ron DeSantis, saying that he sounded poignant in his words and thoughts and so on and so forth. So they hate Alexa Lawless. Carly Lloyd had some very strong opinions as well too. But I love these people who don't hold back, who don't care, and don't kowtow to what the mainstream media wants them to say. Keep on spewing your facts, Alexi. I know you saw the plays. He said it all over Twitter. It's egregious. It's terrible. And if the MLS wants to be taken seriously, that's not something they should be doing. But here we are. So we'll see what happens. Moving on. What do we got next, Tyson?
You know, I have to admit that I made a mistake here. And, you know, we didn't talk about one of the most explosive MLB stories over the weekend. And I feel like we have to come back to that before we move on to football. And that is Tim Anderson getting absolutely KO'd by Jose Ramirez. Did you see this?
One of the luckiest shots I've ever seen in my life.
It's one of those ones where, you know, the guy's falling away, just like barely clips.
I mean, like,
well, but here's what I didn't understand. Okay, I watched the replay. You know, Jose Ramirez slides in. Okay,
yes.
Anderson gets off of him. It didn't really look anything egregious to me. Obviously, Tim Anderson has a history of things in the MLB, but he gets off and he starts walking away, like don't pay no attention. And then Jose Ramirez comes through, and it's just like I didn't see what the big spark was. But to watch it, then of course, you know, the best part was when Tim Anderson dropped his gloves like he was playing hockey, right? Dude, I don't know if he literally threw it down and then boom, right up into the stance.
Squared up into a stance where I was like, oh no, Tim Anderson can fight and he knows exactly what he's doing because the White Sox are out. They're done.
Oh,
There's
of course.
nothing going on. Tim Anderson is like, if you suspend me the rest of the year, I don't care. Watch me get this highlight off. And
unfortunately, he ended up on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, the first two throws, I was like, okay, we're going to have a good fight. And then all of a sudden, Ramirez is like falling away and somehow just clips him. And then Tim Anderson having to get carried off the field. This is funny, too. Somebody said, they go, it would have been better if Tim Anderson left in a stretcher because we would have felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
The fact that he tried to wobble off on his own accord and was still trying to go back at Ramirez, and his boys are like, bro, chill. Like, you're done. You know, get him off the field. And they escorted Mr. Anderson off the field. And then his Twitter rants that have been going on for the past 48 hours since it happened as well, too. Maybe the best fight of the weekend. I don't know if you got to see any of the
I refuse.
Diaz
I refuse.
and Jake Paul fight, but we were able to watch that as well, too. And, you know,
no, I mean, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
It's going to be fun because you do know that it's a 2-fight deal. Everything I read said it was a 2-fight deal. And what's going to happen? Can I tell you what's going to happen? You might care when you hear this.
I'm absolutely not going to, but please go ahead.
The first part was a boxing match, which Nate Diaz came in. He looked absolutely terrible, not in shape. Obviously, Jake Paul wins. He knocks Nate down once. Jake looked like a boxer. Nate looked like a fighter who could take punches. But supposedly the second fight is going to be in the octagon, and it's going to be MMA rules. And Jake Paul and Nate Diaz are going to step into an octagon, and Nate Diaz is probably just going to put the woodwork to Jake Paul.
If he can get to him. You know, that's the thing is, you know, Jake Paul to me is the biggest joke in boxing, and it's an absolute disgrace of what the popularity he does. It just shows how stupid Americans are, and you know, people around the world. Now, I'll give you, Jake Paul can fight. Okay, he's trained. He can fight. I'm not saying he's a scrub, but he went against one real fighter, one real boxer, and lost.
Tommy, yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that we're still out here selling $79 pay-per-view events for basically, again, a YouTube guy that's going to fight somebody that has never boxed in their life, to me is idiotic. It's dumb. It's just a money grab. And we are so stupid as Americans that we just keep forking over the money to say, oh, I wonder if he's going to lose. The problem child. Well, no shit. He's good. Now, the MMA one, okay, now that might be because I'd like to see him get his ass kicked.
That'd be like, and everybody wants to see that. So that might do crazy numbers where you're like, what? Nate's gonna get Jake into an octagon? I want to see Jake get choked out. You know what I mean?
So it's straight UFC rules, right? We're talking the whatever half-ounce glove, 3-ounce gloves or whatever. We're talking about full rules, mixed martial arts. So again, to me, Jake Paul, he has to just stay on his feet. As long as he stays on his feet, he's fine. So all he's got to do between now and then is obviously practice defensive. Because let's be honest, he's not going to learn jiu-jitsu in I don't know how many months it is, but he's not going to learn full jiu-jitsu between now and then. He's going to
I think it'd be like 4 or something like that.
Yeah, he's just going to make sure he stands him up, and when Nate tries to take him down, he's going to have to figure out how to prevent him from getting his legs and taking him down. Because if he gets taken down, he's probably going to he's going to get pounded. I mean,
yeah, and Jake, it was funny because when they interviewed, we were able to watch this as well too. Huddled around a phone that was able to acquire the stream. Let's just say
legally, of course, we don't.
Legally.
We do not condone any piracy
No.
here at the Uninformed Fan.
Nope.
Please make sure that you pay all of your dues so that these people can make their money.
I have no idea what Stream East is. But what?
Jeremy, can we bleep that out? Thank you.
Just hear a bit. Beep. No, it was funny because after the fight, Nate was like, "Listen, props to Jake because he can actually fight. He can kind of take a punch, and he's a worthy opponent. And, I respect him for that." He goes, "But I do want to say this." And Jeremy, correct? Can you chime in here real quick again? Because it was funny because I remember what did he say? He said 9th round, I could have got him in a guillotine. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he said I messed up first round. I had a single leg, and then the 9th round I had a guillotine, but neither of them counted.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so it's just funny because Nate's acknowledging the fact of if it was an MMA fight, obviously he's done.
I'm still amazed that I don't know if you saw the press conference between these two and
It was
Nate Diaz and
very
Jake.
toxic.
The toxic and the F word that Diaz was throwing out there. Not the FUCK, the
entourage word. The entourage word.
Yeah, and I thought that was very interesting. That he literally screamed these words, talking about how Jake's gay and his whole entourage is gay and fuck your father, and then obviously he said you're all a bunch of Fs, and I was pretty surprised that there was zero backlash about that. Zero.
No, it's Nate Diaz. So and this is also leading up to that. Nate's in the ring. He's sparring. He's doing his thing. Jake's dad comes out, and this is
I saw that video. Yeah,
and he comes out and says, "Hey, Nate, man, I just want to wish you good luck, bro. I've always admired you, blah blah blah." And he goes, "Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you, blah blah blah." They move on. And then you're going to fast forward in the press conference. You're going to tell that same dude who just came and gave you love, I don't know. I understand. There's the hype and the buildup of it, and you're trying to sell tickets and you're trying to get all this done. But I'm just there's a certain line where you.
Well, I'm just saying, we're so culturally sensitive, and regardless of what you think of whether it's fight talk or anything of that nature, I mean, this is still a heavily pay-per-view event with many sponsors involved. And, like I said, for that to be zero backlash for that. Man, but yet your sweatshirt has lost 30% of revenue and is losing shelf space off of the shelves due to something, it's just, what world we live in, bro. We are so stupid. we are so stupid. By
the way, yeah. And by the way, I just want to say this: if you're somebody who decides that you're gonna boycott Bud Light, that's a decision that's made by InBev, which is the people who own Bud Light. Okay, so InBev, if you can just look up a list of things that InBev owns.
Well, if you're not gonna drink Bud Light, just make sure you don't drink any of the other ones.
Correct. So you can't drink Bud Light, Budweiser. You can't drink Michelob Ultra. You can't drink Stella. You can't drink Corona. You can't drink. What else am I missing? And then there's a slew of other small ones as well too. So just if you're gonna boycott it, know that you're boycotting all of it. You know what I mean? It's when people were boycotting Stoli and Smirnoff. When Russia invaded Ukraine. It's you do realize. The only
thing that these boycotts hurt is the average people. That's it.
Yeah, Joe Schmo who works at Bud Light who got laid off because you guys didn't they put.
And I don't care if you want to boycott Bud Light for what they did. That's absolutely your right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you, the only people that hurts. You think the fat cats that are multimillionaires and billionaires and all they're like, oh, our revenue's down 30,000. I guess I'm not going to get my quarterly $15 million bonus. It's only going to be $5 million this quarter. Whew. Not gonna be able to take the private jet to Monaco this weekend. I mean, meanwhile, you got the guy in the factory making $25 an hour that got his hours cut by 20 hours because we're not buying any product anymore. But I don't know, that's a whole different story to get onto. But I will say this: we have some good times ahead. NFL preseason action starts on Thursday. We had the Hall of Fame game last week, highest viewership since 2018, averaging 6.3 million viewers. I will say, I think it was DeMarcus Ware that sang the national anthem. I don't know who he paid to be able to do that. But, shout out to you for having the balls to stand up there and do it, because,
Have you ever you were very did you sing in high school at all?
we both know I was in show choir, Jeffrey. We both
So
know
can I
this.
tell you, can I tell you one of the toughest things that I ever had to do? So we go out there and we had a really good baseball team, but I sing in show choir as well too. I was lead of school musicals, sing in chapel, did the whole thing, right? So we go out there and our pre games were like aggressively quick, fast, hard hitting. Everybody's screaming. We're running. We're sprinting everywhere that we go. But they had asked me to sing the national anthem because it was like senior night or whatever. So we go.
Is there video of this?
There probably is somewhere. They're guaranteed there's video of it somewhere.
I'm messaging
But
Amanda.
We do. She doesn't have it.
She'll
I'd have to go to the school. But they literally, we do this pregame, right? And I'm playing third base and I am like out of breath. And they immediately, as soon as we get off the field doing our home pregame, they hand me the microphone and go, all right, do the national anthem. And it was fine. It was fine. But when we got to the land and of the free, that's where things got a little dicey.
Can we have you open the show one day with us? Can we do this?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to do the national anthem one day?
Yeah, let's open the show with the national anthem.
Not an issue. Not an issue.
I think
absolutely.
that
like Big Cat, like Big Cat does for all the golf tournaments that they have. Whenever they do something on Barstool or whenever they do Rough and Rowdy, and Big Cat gets up there and absolutely crushes the national anthem. Shout out to Big Cat and Barstool.
So you know what? You know what we can do. So and we need to determine this behind the scenes, but I think a week from this Friday is when we're starting our Football Fridays, correct? Or is it this Friday?
I thought it was this Friday, but
this Friday is fine. Whenever we count, we're going to put it out there on the Twit guys or the X, whatever it is, Facebook. Make sure you're following
the X.
But we're going to kick off our football with Jeffrey singing the national anthem. So please make sure that you're all tuned in for this.
I just saw something where this guy was like, man, this sucks, because his wife hit him up and goes, what is this X premium that's $8 a month that you're paying for now? Go ahead and try to explain this one.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, Elon. Now you got us looking like we're subscribing to porn sites over here. You know what I mean? Golly, dude. Premium.
So we did have the Hall of Fame game. We had the Jets versus the Browns, which, it was a game. Yeah. It is what it is. Your preseason, you're going to get whatever. The fact that, obviously no starters even play, even, look close to the field. It is what it is. You're watching, second, third strings continue to fight for playing time. I mean, there were some good plays that were going on there. Zach Wilson didn't look absolutely terrible. But, one of the things that really bothered... I don't know, dude.
He hit the one 60-yard pass play, but other than that, he looked like shit. He looked terrible.
I apologize. I didn't really watch it.
Okay.
I didn't really watch it. I did. After the national anthem, I was just like, this can't be good. This is just not good. But the thing that really bothered me about this is, and I guess it's just the way it is we continue to talk about Deshaun Watson, and the national broadcast continue to talk about everything that has happened to Deshaun Watson, everything that he's still going through to Deshaun Watson, and continue to go through it in detail for like a 5-minute segment for a guy that never even took the field. So my question is when does this go away? I mean, after you served your time, you had your penalties, this is the first full season that you're going to have. At what week does it go away about all of the cases that you've had? I mean, do they say this every time Deshaun Watson takes the field? And Deshaun Watson coming out week 3, guess what? This was the same time that his third charge was up against him for sexual harassment against the masseuse. How many are we going to have today? Is he going to throw as many touchdowns as charges? Stay tuned.
Well, there's a caveat to this, and that's if Deshaun Watson comes out and plays good football and the Browns win football games, then no, we won't talk about it.
I think that we will.
I disagree, because I think they'll talk about how good Deshaun Watson has been and blah, blah, blah. Did you see the interaction between him and Roger Goodell?
None.
That they had. It was interesting, to say the least. It was about I'd say a 60-second interaction between the two of them, where literally very, very chummy, very patting each other, very... it was very, very cordial.
What'd you want? Did you want scolding?
I don't see... Well... No, but I also don't see Goodell act like that with a lot of people, and especially act like that with people who were suspended for the amount of time that Deshaun
Do you watch the draft?
Yes.
Do you see how hard Roger Goodell tries to look cool and fit in with the draft picks, doing the handshakes, doing the side hugs?
What I'm saying is that it was from both of them. They were both like very, it's cool. I don't know. It was just very interesting to me. I will say this: if Deshaun Watson,
it's all about money, bro. It's all about money.
Yeah, if Deshaun plays well, and the Cleveland Browns win football games, and Nick Chubb runs well, and Amari Cooper catches touchdowns, and Deshaun does not turn the ball over, and their defense plays the way their defense can play, yeah, we won't talk about Deshaun Watson anymore. But if they're 1-2 going into week 3, then yeah, they might be like, Browns are 1-2, just like the civil cases that are against Deshaun Watson right now, all 30 of them. We'll see when the next 27 roll in, how it works out.
Dude. It's just
so yeah, I could see that happening as well.
It's just something else.
I'm just happy to have football back. It felt good to have football back.
It did, but it didn't, bro. It felt good to see it on the TV, but it wasn't football.
How about Mekhi Becton? Did you see?
You might as well watch Canadian football. I would equate that to preseason NFL.
Mekhi Becton, who played, I believe, right tackle, I think. Anyway, he was a very high draft pick coming out of Louisville for the New York Jets. Gets hurt, injures his knee, misses a bunch of time. Comes back. He talks about how mentally this was so tough on him, and he's just really excited to be back and be part of the game and get out there and play and so on and so forth. It's his first chance to get back out there. This is supposed to be one of the anchors for Aaron Rodgers here on the offensive line as well, too. They're really banking that he comes through because their other rookies look terrible in camp so far. Comes out, kid plays 7 snaps and has to take himself out of the football game.
I was going to say he breaks his ankle on the second play.
Like, I don't know if there was an injury or there was something that was disclosed or he just mentally couldn't get through that hurdle, but literally removed himself from the game, said he was extremely disappointed after, and he'd have to reevaluate stuff and go from there. So it just,
Jeremy says he's done for the year.
Is he? Is he done for the year?
That's what you just said. Wow. He said he suffered a knee injury. Done for the year.
Yeah. It's like.
Couldn't happen to a better team.
And dude, this is my thing, right? And yes, Rodgers has given back this money, $30 million something dollars like that. And he said, it's because if we need something at the trade deadline that we see there's a deficiency in our team, I want us to be able to make the move. Homie, you need to protect yourself right now because you play in a division with a bunch of defensive lines that are going to be really good this year. And
when we say give back the money, what are we talking about here?
He canceled some void years that he had on his contract so that the team would have more cap space and restructured his entire deal, basically.
What do you mean canceled? Can you give me a breakdown of this contract renegotiation here?
I can get it to you on the next show on Wednesday if you want. And I just want to make sure I'm 100% accurate in everything that I put out there. But from what my understanding of it is basically there were some void years that he was going to be having onto his contract. He canceled those, restructured his entire contract so that they would have about $30 million in extra cap space to be able to go. So.
I'd be really curious. So yeah, we'll break that down here because I want to see how generous Mr. Rogers actually is. If this money is just deferred or what it is, but we'll get into that. So so this Friday we're gonna start our football Fridays this Friday, 11 a.m. We're gonna start breaking down college and pros. So speaking of college, the Pac-12 is the Titanic at this point. There's no life vests. Everybody's literally just jumping ship, hoping that they can get to an iceberg to stay afloat. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Oregon, UCLA, USC, Utah, and Washington are all exiting after the 2023 season.
Uh-huh.
I have to say this. I saw something from Tubby Tupperville. What? Tommy
Tuberville?
Tupperware?
Tommy Tuberville?
The old Kentucky coach?
He was the coach for Auburn, and he is a U.S. senator.
No, not you're thinking. No, not that guy. The guy he was the University of Kentucky men's basketball coach. Black guy.
Rick Pitino?
Is Rick Pitino black?
Tubby Smith.
Tubby Smith. I said he's black. He said Rick Pitino.
I didn't hear that part. I don't hear color.
I don't hear or see color. Jeremy, can you make sure I get that right, please? So yeah, he came out. So he came out and said, he goes, we had 880 kids in the transfer portal last year. He goes, 880. He goes, what are we doing here? We're teaching kids that, you don't have to stick with the program anymore. You don't have to stick with something when times get tough that you're able to leave. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think that the transfer portal is in direct relation to why we're seeing all of this restructuring. Yes, TJ, Rick Pitino. He said that.
I didn't hear the black part.
We got all these kids that are looking for the next big thing, the next big opportunity, and that's where we're at socially, right? You look at anything on the toxic social media, it's all about showing stuff that you don't have, living a lifestyle that you don't have, getting your bread, getting your money to where, as you just said, that I think it was yesterday, you said, at this point, these kids are professional paid players, and they are. So you have all of these conferences that are now moving out of the Pac-12. And the reason why they're moving out of the Pac-12 is money, 100%. Why does anybody join the SEC? Obviously, it's the best conference that there is in football. Okay, but we're talking about football, and there's the most money in there. Okay, so regardless, do you think? I just don't. When you look at the SEC and people joining this, and now the Big 10, the Big 12. All of these powerhouses are coming together. They're just going to cannibalize each other. Now, we are expanding the playoffs, which I think will change that. When we get to the 12 team, then you're going to see a lot of teams get in there. But, I mean, at that point, you're looking at, are you going to have 6 teams from the SEC? You're going to have 5 teams? You're going to have 6 teams from the Big 12? I mean, is there going to be a 2 to 3 conference that's just going to completely dominate it? And I think that what we're seeing here is we're seeing colleges follow the transfer portal. Right? We're not getting our love from over here. So instead of trying to figure out how we can build Pac-12 football or build Pac-12 sports, we're going to go over here because there's more money and the grass is greener on this side. I think that, we're down a very slippery slope here. And I think that, one reporter brought up a good point. Are we losing the nostalgia of college football? And I absolutely think we are. College football is not the same anymore. It's just really? It's just not. Is it
really?
There used to be something.
Really?
There used to be something when you played for Florida State, correct? When you played for Florida State,
there still is.
No. Do you think people go to Florida State for the tradition of the program right now, or do they think they go there for the bag? And I'll say that for Alabama. I'll say it for Florida. I'll say it for Miami. Do you think that anybody truly goes to college for the pride of the school anymore, or are they going for the bag?
Absolutely, because they could get the bag.
You didn't answer that.
You could get the bag if you listen at any of those large colleges. You're getting the same bag.
Absolutely
right?
not. That's why.
Alabama, Florida State, University of Florida, Tennessee, USC, Oklahoma, Texas, Miami, wherever it is, you can get a bag wherever you go. That's not an issue.
But the bag isn't as big. Obviously, that's why they're turning things down and going to other schools.
This whole narrative to me is bullshit, because people have been getting bags since the 1980s, right? Since who was the guy who went to SMU? Oh God, why can I not think of his name now? Did Walter
Eric Dickerson?
Eric Dickerson. Thank you so much, Jeremy Swinson. Since Eric Dickerson went to SMU and they had to shut that program down for him getting cars and all kinds of stuff. All right, I don't think this has anything to do with that. All right, I think kids are legitimately choosing these programs because they think that it's going to be best for them. Now, there's a lot of things they're going to factor in: playing time, development, who's gotten drafted, what does their schedule look like? Are you going to how much exposure are you going to get, so on and so forth. The thing with them switching from spot to spot, it's absolutely about money, right? Florida State, for instance, is trying to get out of the ACC, just like Clemson is, just like Miami is, just like North Carolina State, North Carolina. They want to leave the ACC. Why? Because the revenue sharing for them does not make sense. Okay. Just like, do you think that in the SEC that Vanderbilt should get the exact same amount of money as Alabama or Florida?
I'm sorry. I was reading this comment over. Dickerson said he took a pay cut when he went from college to pro.
Yes. Do you think that Vanderbilt should get the exact same share of money as Alabama or Florida or Georgia?
No.
Thank you. Well, that's Florida State's issue as well, too. And that's the Pac-12's issue as well, too. And a lot of these other schools, that's why you see USC and UCLA and these other schools wanting to leave, because they don't think that they deserve the exact same cut as Washington State does. And so this is all about them increasing their revenue, increasing money for their college, for their brand. Now,
so are you saying, and I'm sorry, just to interrupt real quick here. So you're saying the Pac-12 and every conference distributes the money 100% equally.
I'm saying every conference is different. So it depends on what your revenue share is going into that conference, right? Let's say that you going into the Big Ten is going to say, you know what, USC, UCLA, whoever else went over, we're going to give you a full revenue share for coming over. Okay, so your revenue share, you're going to go from making 20 million that you were in the Pac-12. You're going to make $50 million a year now based off our TV deal. That's what you're going to get. But now you're also going to say, hey, listen, we also want to take Washington. We want to take, these other schools as well too. Well, listen, hey guys, listen, instead of making 12 million, we're going to give you 20 million now. You're not going to make the 50 that the big time schools are going to make, but you're going to make $8 to $10 million more than you were already making in the Pac-12.
So where does that extra revenue come from?
TV deals. Fox Sports owns the Big Ten, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the Big 12 and the SEC are pretty much locked in to, what Big 12 and Big 10 are locked into Fox Sports, right? And then you have ACC, you had the American Athletic Conference. I think there's a share between the Big 12 possibly as well too when it comes to ABC and Fox.
So you're saying with these teams coming over that the Fox Sports is going to obviously renegotiate their contracts to get the extra games, and all of the extra money that comes in from these games are just being distributed to these teams and not going into the larger pool. So Ohio State, who is the anchor, Michigan, who's the anchor, their revenue is going to stay the same, even though we're bringing in 6 more teams.
Whatever the negotiated deal is, okay? The way that some of these other conferences have it broken down, why are you pointing?
I'm just giving you a little thinker, Jeffrey. Just giving you a little thinker here.
Florida State's problem and some of the problems with the Pac-12 and the reason that these conferences are disbanding is because they have refused to evolve. They've said they don't care. Everybody's going to get the same revenue share, basically, is what the issue is.
And what's your source for this?
Florida State and Clemson. My source is Twitter. Florida State and Clemson and reputable people who I follow on Twitter, whether it be, Bud Elliott. There's a whole bunch of people you can follow out there who follow this, do this very closely, who I follow on a regular basis. Basically, they want a split revenue share. Florida State does not feel like that they should make the exact same money as, a team like Duke or Wake Forest when they produce more money when it comes to football.
Now, okay, so, and that brings me to my next point. We're talking about football.
Football drives everything. Correct. Yeah, but football pays for everything, Tyson.
Why are you getting all upset here real quick? I haven't even said anything yet.
Football drives everything. The reason that you can have cross country, the reason that you can have a lacrosse team.
How are you gonna speak to something that I haven't even spoke about on national television here yet?
Because of football.
You haven't even said you won't even let me say it. You're already trying to get the rebuttal out before I even say what I'm gonna say. All right. Chess. So we're talking about football here, right? And we're negotiating the entire Pac-12, the entire ACC contracts. Now, I would assume that they have different contracts for different sports, correct? Different revenue shares, or is it all one big thing?
I think the TV deal is all one big thing, from what I understand.
So let's go at it this route. So let's just say that North Carolina State's, well, I guess we're talking about TV revenue here, correct? So, I mean, the only TV revenue that these colleges are actually getting paid big money on is football. You might get some ESPN Plus deals, but I think at that point, you're just hoping that a TV crew is there versus getting paid off of it. I think we can agree with that, right?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the issue is like you're talking about, like Florida State is saying, listen, we've played in the past 4 or 5 years since we've been down. We have played 15 games that have garnered over 5 million views in those games because we are a brand that dominates, college football. There's respected in college football. So it is about the brand. When you look at every other team combined besides Clemson and the ACC, they haven't even combined for.
Well, let's just be honest. The ACC's trash.
You know what
I mean, let's just be honest here. And,
yeah.
That's why it kind of, obviously the money aspect makes deal for Florida State and Clemson. However, getting into the playoffs and that they continue to dominate your league, almost guaranteed for the past 3 or 5 years. It's almost pretty much guaranteed Clemson in the playoffs every single year because Florida State was having down years. There was nobody that was going to beat Clemson in the ACC. There was nobody.
Miami.
Yeah, but I mean,
Miami having down years, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, that was a straight ticket for the playoffs. So, again, now that Florida State is coming up, I mean, the only competition I guess Miami is starting to come up a little bit, but the only competition that you're looking at is your big brother in Clemson. So, you only have to beat one team. Well, they've been your big brother over the years, bro. I mean, they've dominated the ACC conference for what, 7 years now?
5.
All right, okay, so 5. So let's just say, I mean, that's domination. Okay, so that's big brother. Kind of like the Gators were against the Florida State not too many years ago, but that's another subject that we can discuss on Friday. So all I'm saying is that
you guys were really good against Florida State in the 60s. You guys were really good in the 60s against FSU.
Thank you.
Yeah, since then it hasn't been that close.
I think 2006 was a good year. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
You're talking about specific years as opposed to overall record. So,
well, I think the 2000s were good.
Overall record, we're actually tied, but that's also because we didn't really become a program until the late 70s, early 80s. So
that's because nobody wanted to recognize you because you're a racist. And you do a chop. That's so racist.
Right.
But,
and Gator bait is about throwing little African-American boys.
We are not going down that road because that is not what it meant. All right? You come to the swamp, you're in the waters, you are gator bait, and gator bait is just something that a gator eats. That's it. It could be a chicken, it could be a frog, it could be a fish, or it could be a Seminole. Whatever it is, you're gator bait. The saying was made by a black man. Give me a break. Give me a break. Huh. How dare you? Anyway, I just find it... I don't know,
conference expansion.
Yeah, I just kind of find it confusing that, obviously the money is one thing, but let's be honest, Florida State's getting a lot of money anyway. I mean, they're not hurting.
The issue is that
their donors,
buyout.
I get it, but their donors and everything, obviously they make up a lot of it. I just feel like it's such a cakewalk conference. Why would you want to leave it to go? And where are you going to go? You're going to come to the SEC?
Yeah. Hopefully.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So let's just say Clemson.
Well,
let's just take them all. Let's take Clemson. Let's take Florida State. Let's take Miami. Let's put them all in the SEC. I mean, you're going to have 2 conferences, basically, maybe 3. That's it. You're going to have 3 conferences that are actually competitive across the entire country of football. And they're just going to cannibalize each other to where you're going to have a 3 and a 4 loss team making it into the playoffs. And you're going to have a 2 loss or a 1 loss lesser team, or maybe even an undefeated SMU or something like that has a great season, or the Raging Cajuns or someone like that aren't even going to touch it because of the strength of schedule, because they're not going to be allowed to play these teams because the conference schedule is going to manipulate it unless they expand the schedule to put more games on the docket.
I think what you would do is you would break it down into 4 conferences, right? You would have the Pac-12 will eventually engulf the Mountain West, and they'll kind of get together and do that to make a legitimate conference. You'll have the Big Ten with 20-something teams. You'll have the SEC with 20-something. You'll have the Big 12 with 20-something. You'll have 4 conferences. ACC will eventually be gone. And you'll split those teams up into those 4 conferences. In terms of football, those 4 conferences, whoever wins the conference will get an automatic bowl bid. You will keep your rivalry games if you would like to. You'll probably get an out-of-conference game. The thing that this will hurt the most is going to be Jacksonville State.
It's going to hurt the little schools. The little schools are going to have no shot.
And yeah, because they're not going to have a chance to go play bigger schools and get any kind of rep or recognition. You're going to have to stay in your own lane now, and you're not going to get paid $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million to come play that game anymore.
And that's what I'm saying.
It's going to affect all your other programs. That is the issue that you're going to be looking at in terms of long-term jumping ahead.
You're not going to be able to recruit. You're not going to be able to pay. You're not going to have the money. And
what will happen is you're just going to have 10 conference games. You might have, or maybe you have 10 conference games and you have 2 out-of-conference games. So those out-of-conference games are going to be against other D1 competition. They're not going to be against any D2 competition. And then you're going to have your 1 champion because you're only going to play, 10 to 12 games because you are going to have a conference championship, and then you're going to have an expanded playoff. They don't want these kids to have too much exposure as well, too. So there's a lot of moving parts that are going to go into it. The interesting thing that Florida State did is that they reached out because what their buyout would be, it would be $30 million a year to the ACC for 10 years. So they have to pay the ACC $300 million.
They're under contract for the next 10 years?
Yeah, their TV rights bill runs out in 10 years, and it's terrible. So they're trying to do that. Now, where do you want to get that money from? And there's a report that I saw, I think I sent this to our group, about Florida State has reached out to private equity people, Chase Bank. There's a chance that they reach out to the Saudis and say, hey, would you like a piece of this pie, and bring them in as investors? And then that's a slippery slope, because where do we go now? You're going to have literally like owners of colleges, like when it comes to these.
Well, it's no different than China bought the Foundation Academy here in Orlando.
Right.
That is now owned by Chinese investors. I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be nothing American anymore. There's really not. And everybody's just sitting back and they don't see this, okay? Guys, wake up, okay? I'm telling you right now, the United States economy is so weak and you guys think it's booming and all this crap. It's not. And look at this. People are poaching. I'm telling you right now, by the end of the next 10 to 20 years, all of this stuff is going to be owned by China, Saudi, Russia, whoever has money. We are going to sell out to the highest bidder. It's the way the American way has always been. It's just always been the Americans had the most money and they were the ones selling out to the highest. But now we're not. We're getting lapped up. The Saudis they could buy the world over 3 times and not even worry about putting gas in their Bugatti. Okay, it's happening. You're seeing it, and to your point, Jeffrey, it's going to happen.
It's a slippery slope, but it's like for FSU, they're just like, dude, like we understand that it's going to be $30 million a year, but now we're thinking about outsourcing this on, some kind of
but okay, so it's going to be $30 million a year, but what is their revenue going to be off the new contract?
Well, that's the thing. They'd still be making, because they'd probably getting paid close to 60 a year off of the TV deals once they jump ship.
Right, so they're still netting 30, so it's a good bit.
Netting 30, which is more than the 15 that you're netting right now.
They're probably going to pay 5% interest on their loan because it's going to be a secured loan. Any bank's going to want to jump off of it. I would. If I had the money, I'd give it to you right now, Florida State, because I know it's coming back. Football's not going anywhere. It's only going to go up. But like you said, I mean, once you get into it, I mean, it's just one of those things.
And that's the other thing that's like, it's tough because they're the first college that is looking into doing this, and it's like, I don't,
of course, Florida State, shocking.
As a booster, as somebody who was born in Tallahassee, who went to school there, who gives money to them, I don't want.
You're a booster?
I donate to a collective.
You're not a booster. Just to wrap this up, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. This is just a little taste of what's going to be coming on Friday. Friday's going to be all about football. We are going to start off on Formula One when we have Formula One on Fridays, but it's going to be all about football. And the last thing I want to talk about is Jeffrey got really excited here a little bit earlier. Buff, what's going on today, buddy? Welcome in. We got a little bit of longer show. We're a little banger here today for you. I do want to talk about the Mizzou football coach and what he said, because Jeffrey got his panties in a wad here for a second, got all up in arms before I even said anything. Now, the Mizzou coach brought up, I thought was something that should be addressed, is that, okay, when we're talking about these conference realignments, we're talking about this money, we're talking about football. And football is, 6 games on the road, 6 games a year, 6 weekends a year that you're out on the road. What about basketball? What about baseball? What about soccer? What about lacrosse? And these teams that play gymnastics that have way more games than we do. They're going to be on the road all of the time. They're going to be getting back late, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, especially if they have to travel all the way to California for the day, and come back. And how is that going to affect them, their sleep schedule, and, being able to get home at 2 o'clock in the morning, but then expected to be in class at 8 o'clock in the morning? And I think that brought up a good point. And, when colleges first started out and they first started lining themselves in conference, it was all geographic. Made sense. Where can we get back and forth on a day? All right. And then, of course, as college got bigger and bigger, now they go out 2 days before, right? Or a day before. And they come back a day later. It's not the same day trips anymore. Well, now how are we going to do it when we're driving? And let's be honest, because I don't know. I'm assuming that the women's lacrosse team is not taking a private jet somewhere, or I'm assuming that they're not going to be flying commercially. I don't know that. I could be wrong, but I would imagine them piling in a Sprinter van and driving to California for 12 hours to go back and forth. And I think that brought up a good point. We're talking about football and the impact of football on college programs. But what about the lesser teams? What about the lesser programs? They're going to have to travel a lot more. And how is that actually going to impact their academic, sleep schedule, and career? I thought it was a good point. And I know you're very strong about this, and you think it's hogwash. So, Jeffrey, do you think it's any kind of a valid point at all? Or is it just like, whatever. Football's king, deal with it?
Sure. It's a valid point. I think there's ways and workarounds to get through that. Like the Missouri coach talking about this is very rich considering Missouri just came from the Big 12 to the SEC a few years ago. I mean, I don't know. It's like Jimbo.
Hold on. One second.
Go ahead.
Well, maybe after obviously I don't think the coach has to say, in what conference that the school goes in, but maybe this is because he's seeing the effect that it had on his players traveling to different states where they never traveled before, right? And maybe he has firsthand experience of the toll that it's taken on the players to have to travel this much. Could be a good point.
Maybe Missouri shouldn't be in the SEC. I don't know. I'll just like Vanderbilt and just like some of these other bottom feeder schools that somehow, whatever. Anyway, I'll say that it's almost like NC State's fine. I would say Duke is only relevant in basketball, pretty much. If you want to really go there, Virginia Tech. I don't know. Well, I'll say this, and it's also rich how Jimbo Fisher came out and is like, it's just a shame that this is all about money and blah blah blah. And it's like, really, Jimbo?
That's
really,
your boy.
Jimbo?
That's your boy.
Come on, dude. Get out of here. I think there's workarounds around it. Listen, if you're gonna say, okay, this weekend we are going to have a huge weekend of play or a huge week of play. Maybe you go in, you have a select city, and everybody kind of travels to this one select city, and you do more games in one regional location that way, as opposed to maybe when it comes to basketball, when it comes to lacrosse, different stuff like that. Maybe you don't necessarily travel on campus for every single game unless it makes sense. So less on-campus games, maybe more regional games located in a select area to be able to make that happen. But
definitely interesting. Right. I just thought it was I
don't really care because they're getting paid, and you are an employee as opposed to being.
I don't think college lacrosse people are getting paid.
Well, that's a hobby.
It's a means to get your college education paid for, and that's kind of what I was going.
So all those lacrosse places, right? All the stuff in the South is basically club teams. They're not scholarship, right?
Absolutely, the lacrosse team has scholarships.
Correct, in Syracuse, in Connecticut, in Rutgers, and the John Hopkins, whatever. All these places that are perennial powerhouses. Virginia, sure, they have legitimate lacrosse teams, but a lot of the places in the South and a lot of the places in the ACC and SEC are
give me one
basically club teams.
Give me one team that doesn't give scholarships for lacrosse.
Now you're gonna make me look this up.
No, I'm gonna look it up. So give me the team so I can look it up. What team?
Florida State for the longest, their lacrosse team was a club team. It wasn't an actual part of the college, at least when I went there. Now we are talking that is
Florida State University does offer athletic scholarships for lacrosse.
Quite a few years ago was when I was going there.
Okay, so Florida State does. Any other ones?
They offer full scholarships?
Yep.
Okay, well, good for them. Glad that they've gotten better in lacrosse since I was there.
Any other ones? LSU? Want to talk about? I mean, I wouldn't see LSU, right?
Sure, go ahead. You're taking one small little point of
this. LSU does offer athletic scholarships for lacrosse.
Okay.
Any other ones you'd like to throw out there? Alabama? Alabama!
Tyson, just to help you out with this, they're not full scholarships. They are equivalency scholarships, which they divide up 12.6 scholarships among 44 players.
Well, that's anything. Not the whole football team gets a scholarship. It's the best of the best. But he's trying to say that there's no scholarships whatsoever, that it's a club team.
I just said,
until a few years ago, Florida had a club team. They did not have a full team. They just now recognize the lacrosse team in 2016, 2014, I want to say, is when they just started playing actual. They were a club team.
Yeah, when I was there,
I think that has to do with just the
06. They were a club team in terms of Florida State. So
I think that has to do with the popularity of lacrosse lately. Obviously lacrosse is one of the faster growing sports in the United States at the moment, so maybe that's why. But here we are. Yeah, I know. TJ, how did Jeff just rip off the top 10 lacrosse teams? Very impressive. Jeff is very in depth. We learned that from the WNBA stats that he used to spit out. Thank God we don't have to deal with that anymore.
We're on a little bit of a break right now.
We are on a little bit of a break.
Shout out Diana Taurasi.
We are not doing this.
Women's players in the history of the WNBA just got her 10,000th point. An unbelievable accomplishment, especially in the WNBA. And then to think that she plays WNBA, but she also plays overseas in places like Russia as well too, to supplement income as well, and just to keep on playing and keep on hooping. Shout out to her not getting arrested going to Russia as well. So
let's give the flowers there because that is so very impressive. Very impressive.
10,000 points, man.
10,000 points. Great job.
Great, man.
Great job. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. As we said, Friday, we're going to get back in. If you like the football talk that we got today, we're going to start breaking it down even further. We got college to preview. We got NFL to preview. We got fantasy drafts coming up. Who are we going to take? What round are we going to take Justin Fields in? Is it going to be the first pick? We don't know. We'll find out.
I will say this, too. So it is August, ladies and gentlemen. Fantasy football is coming around the corner. I have been lacking in this, but it is Mock Draft Monday. So if you have not, get into a mock draft. See where you place. Even if you want to just draft a few rounds, you can set it up to whatever your parameters are and what you want for your league. Draft in a few different positions. See where your teams fall.
Can I ask a question about this?
You're going to target certain guys. And I always say this. When it comes to fantasy football, I look at situations that I want to avoid more than I look at situations that I really, really want to be a part of. But things that you want to break down, you want to avoid situations, and make sure you target those areas, and also look at schedule. You want to look at schedule to start the season and also schedule to end the season as well too, and where you personally rank defenses yourself.
Be sure to tune in Friday for Jeffrey's breakdown of fantasy football draft. Now, for me, I've never done a mock draft. I don't see the point.
As GM of the year, that's super shocking too.
That's because as the GM of the year, no matter what position I am on the draft, I can find the best players and to fill my voids.
Historically, that's not really true though. If we look
historically on paper, I've had the best team on paper every single year.
If we look at past performance, and that's really all that we have to go on.
I can only draft the players, Jeff. I can't go out there and catch the ball for Mike Evans. I can't do it. I can't Tom Brady, I can't have a mechanical arm saying, "Hey Tom, hit the wide open guy." I can't do it. If I would never lose. I mean, there's just nothing we can do. I don't know. TJ says, "I can't wait to see Tyson and Jeff argue over the Trinity NFL." How will this work?
That's a good point.
The NFL is going to be the tougher one. Obviously, I've kind of taken over the baseball thing here a little bit. Obviously, Jeff does have input, and I keep him in the loop. Basketball is probably going to be all on him. That's probably going to be the reversal. And then NFL is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because we're both going to be very, very vocal probably. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how we can get it work. I think once the team is drafted though, then we're good. I mean there's not going to be a whole lot of moves from that point.
If you know anything about me, you know that the team that I draft is normally not the team that I finish with. So I think that, and I'm a very big proponent of taking shots as well too. So I'm going to have Tyson on board with him allowing me to make waiver wire pickups and be plug and plays and starts in some situations, even when it comes to playoffs and championships and different things like that. I think risk it for the biscuit is my theory.
Well, we'll see. I definitely feel good going into the baseball playoffs. We barely, I'm going to say barely lost, through a glitch in the system where, unfortunately with the trades that happened, the Rangers acquiring Scherzer bumped Perez out of the starting lineup. Justin Verlander missed a start. We lost a lot of starter rotations. And, unfortunately, but we scored some serious amount of points.
And, Mark put up 511 points. What a game, bro. It's
I know.
Dean Smith said, sometimes you play great defense. You put the hand right in the guy's face, and he makes a shot, and you just say, nice shot.
Well, you're going to see this week, though. You're going to see this week, you're going to see him struggle. And the reason why he's going to struggle is because he had 5 of his pitchers starting on Sunday, which they might not get a start this week at all, which is where we were. We had a good. I was very happy with the way it went. That's why I didn't make any changes. I think that we're going to be a very, very contending team in the playoffs. We could be going up against Mr. TJ. I feel very confident in our team that we will be able to tackle anybody. And I'm looking forward to the changes next year. I'm really looking forward. One of the biggest things I'm going to proponent of is going to be capping the players that you can pick up the week. There shouldn't be unlimited players that you can pick up.
Yeah, roster transactions for 1 week.
But that's going to be it for us for today, guys. Go ahead.
What if you got a budget for the year, right?
That gets too much.
Why? Because it just takes off of every single transaction that you make.
It's a lot to keep track of because it's not going to be able to be tracked through the app. It's going to have to be something that's going to have to be done on the side, and there's already enough work involved. Just cap it like at my Yahoo League, which I am winning in my Yahoo League right now against some big boys that have been fantasy baseball players for years. So in that one as well, you can only have four transactions per week. And actually in that one, you can't even pick up pitchers or batters the same day. So if you have to plan a day out, it's very more intriguing, but it's all average based and all that stuff. So we'll see how that works. But
make sure you tune in on Wednesday. We'll touch in on golf because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But we'll have the boys on. We'll break down everything and what we're looking at going forward for the play.
And that's kind of going to be the format going forward. Mondays, especially when football comes around, Monday's going to be a lot of football talk. It's going to be all recap, and then we're going to kind of save Wednesdays for basically Gap Wedge Wednesdays. We might even bring the boys a little bit early. They're going to have a little bit more time on the show, and then we're going to preview the Thursday night game on Wednesdays, and then on Friday. Well, Wednesday we also are going to preview any big college games that might be happening either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And then Friday is going to be the big day. Friday could be a 2-hour show. It could be a banger. We're going to have to figure that out with our schedules to see because we're going to be breaking down any big college games that we have coming up on Saturday. Then, of course, breaking down Sunday NFL football. We got a lot of good content for you guys. I'm really glad that everybody dropped by. Thank you, Jeff, TJ. This guy over here, which I don't know how to pronounce his name, Rick Pitino, obviously being brought up into the conversation today was a very interesting one. And, at the end of the day, go Cubs go. We're looking forward to making the playoffs. And as I said, we're going to start our NL championship run. It started last night, and we're going to continue to go all the way, baby.
Good luck.
Everybody,
Be great.
Have a great day. We'll see you.